Good evening. I'm Dr. Tim Radke, Vice President of Chapters for the Explorers Club. Welcome to our new weekly series, Chapter Connect. Each week we will showcase an individual chapter of the Explorers Club presented by their chapter chair. I believe this series will be informative and inspirational, and that we'll learn how we can enhance our experience in the Explorers Club by incorporating some of these ideas into our own chapters. Tonight, I have the pleasure of introducing Todd Tai, Chairman of the Australian New Zealand chapter. He will take us on a video tour of his amazing chapter. Afterwards, we'll have a brief conversation along with a question and answer session from questions that our viewers will be sending in. After that, Todd will be introducing Kate Leeming, a member of his chapter, for a further discussion about things that go on. And then afterwards, Ann Passer will be joining us to give us some updates and announcements. Todd, welcome.
Thank you, Tim, and a big thank you to all the members of the Explorers Club around the world. It's about 10 a.m. in the morning here. I'm in Sydney and Kate Leeming is in Melbourne. And I'm very happy to see this great initiative called Chapter Connect, and very proud to be part of it and to explain a little bit about the Australia and New Zealand chapter of the Explorers Club. We have a very brief video that I'm going to just share with you right now, which will pretty much give you a good snapshot of who we are and what we do. Welcome to the Australia and New Zealand chapter of the Explorers Club. I'm the chapter chair, Todd Tai, and I'm here at our home, which is the Balmoral Boathouse, which is where we hold our events. I'd like to extend a warm welcome to all members around the world. Whenever you're visiting Australia, please get in contact with the club. We hold about 10 events a year, and we'd certainly like to see you here in Sydney or in one of our other events throughout the year. What we do in Australia is we bring the adventure community together so they can socialise with each other. We also invite members of the public to come and join us. And we do that through what we call evenings of adventure. And we hold about 10 events a year. 4 events are usually held in Sydney, 2 events in Melbourne, and we've just started to do events in Tasmania, in Hobart, and also New Zealand. Prices range from about $40 to $60, and this typically includes 2 presenters, a nice meal and canapes, and all beverages. Now you can expect up to 80 people per event. If you want to find out what we're doing, just check on our website, which is www.anzec.org, or feel free to email me directly at anzec@explorers.org. So, where do we hold our events? Now, as you all know, we hold them in Sydney at the Balmoral Boathouse, a stunning venue which just happens to be owned by our chapter treasurer, John Lees. In Melbourne, we hold our events at a beautiful theatre known as the Sun Theatre, which also is owned by one of our members, aviator Michael G. Smith. And what we do is we have our own little private area inside the theatre. In Tasmania, we hold our events at a special microbrewery called Captain Bligh, which has a perfect atmosphere for an explorer's feel. In New Zealand, we've had 2 events, one in the Great Hall of Christchurch and the other in the Otago Museum, which is also curated by one of our members, Ian Griffin. So who are the key people at the Australia and New Zealand chapter of the Explorers Club? Well, there's myself. As chairman, I have to make sure that the club runs smoothly and is adhering to all governance that we're expected to meet. I have been leading expeditions out into the desert and marine expeditions since 2002. I've run photographic workshops and I've run scientific research camps in some of the most remote parts of Australia. Our club secretary is Steve Travaris. Steve is an exploratory cave diver, and as secretary, he's responsible for documentation and communication of the activities of the committee, as well as being the primary point of administration. John Lees attends to all of our financial records and reporting and ensure that the club's financials remain in the black. David Strike is our very, very energetic membership coordinator. As our membership coordinator, he is responsible for assisting with the day-to-day management of our chapter's membership database, supporting member acquisition, retention, development activities. David's background encompasses military, commercial, scientific, recreational, and technical diving. Jane Jenkins is our programs coordinator. She helps to organise and run social events and other programs to encourage our geographically diverse members to come together and enjoy fellowship of our club. Jane has been actively involved in the diving industry in all facets of it, and she is a former volunteer rescue diver with the Westpac Rescue Helicopter Service, and now is the Vice President of the Australasian Our World Underwater Scholarship Society. Casimir Zerl is our video journalist and chapter webmaster. He is responsible for all the content that we create at the Evening of Adventure, and as administrator, he looks after all of our social media and all of our websites. Casimir is an independent filmmaker, having extensive experience shooting films, video editing, online promotion, and all aspects linked in running an independent film venture. And finally, Sarah Bockens is our New Zealand program coordinator. She is an Antarctic explorer and polar scientist. Now, when you visit us here in Australia and come to our Evenings of Adventure, you can expect to have a very high level of presenters. Some of our most recent presenters have included Richard Fitzpatrick, an Emmy award-winning cinematographer and qualified marine biologist specialising in sharks.
So I put a box of food down. When the sharks came in to grab the food, I could swim up behind, grab them by the tail, put a lasso on the tail, and take them up to the boat. Simple.
Matt Carter, a marine archaeologist and a research director for the Major Projects Foundation, where he investigates environmental impacts of World War II shipwrecks throughout the Pacific.
So this is a 3D model of that shipwreck. It is sub-centimetre accurate, and it is just exactly the condition that ship was in on the day we dived it.
Tom Pollard is a high altitude cameraman and part of a research expedition that discovered the body of lost British mountaineer George Lee Mallory at 27,000 feet in 1999, 75 years after his disappearance.
And then a moment later, clouds came in and obscured any view of these two figures moving upward. And that was it. They disappeared.
You'll hear people like Rod McCurdy. Rod carried the Explorers Club's flag on his groundbreaking expedition where he made a ship out of the floating reeds of Lake Titicaca and attempted to sail from South America to Australia.
Every day we found a basketball, a soccer ball, a buoy, a ghost net, a piece of plastic of some sort, a Coke bottle one day floated by. Every day there was a piece of refuse in what is one of the most remote areas of the ocean you can voyage.
Other presenters include Jeff Maynard.
I say we're good to go. Tomorrow we're going to fly across Antarctica.
The Jones family, Justin, his wife Lauren, and their toddler daughter Morgan walked over 1,600 kilometres from the centre of Australia to the coast.
So imagine that you're pulling for 40 minutes, you're set up for a big day, you're pulling along, you've got this child behind you. 40 minutes you sit there entertaining ourselves, and then it's mama, 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 mama.
In the past, we've even had people like Dr. Gino Caspari, the Swiss researcher and archaeologist who's currently excavating a Scythian tomb.
What we looked at actually turned out to be one of the largest and one of the oldest Scythian royal tombs out there.
Melinda Brown awarded the 2017 Our World Underwater Scholarship Society, which took her to over 18 countries on 70 flights and over 150 dives in a single year.
So there's 700 sharks just in this one passage of this little island called Fakarava, which sounds quite rude, but that is the name of it.
And finally, Eric Phillips. For over 25 years, Eric has been undertaking pioneering expeditions to the North and the South Poles.
So it's not unusual to wake up in the morning on the Arctic Ocean and to have lost 10 kilometres in distance.
So that's just a brief snapshot of the type of people that we have presenting at the Australia and New Zealand chapter of the Explorers Club. And to remind you of your enjoyable time at our chapter, we have some great merchandise for you to take home. We have these nice t-shirts that we've created with our club emblem on it. We also have a little bit more formal polo shirts. We have these really comfy fleeces, but now these are getting rare. We might have to make some more soon. And finally, we have these nice little iron-on patches that you can place onto any item of clothing that you like.
Great presentation, Todd. A couple questions I have for you. I'm in San Diego, which is pretty much a city-state or a landlocked island. I think we have about 52 members right now, and we all live within 25 miles of one another. Yet, despite that, I would say maybe about a third of the members never come to meetings or any other social functions. I was wondering how that compares for you. You cover a whole continent and then some.
Yes, geography is a challenge, especially for the Australia and New Zealand chapter. We have about 100 members in Queensland, New South Wales, Victoria, Tasmania, South Australia, West Australia, Northern Territory, and New Zealand. And Australia is the type of country that it can take 4 hours just to fly across it, like the size of the United States. So consider our chapter the size of the United States, and then you've got New Zealand on top of that, and then there's 2 islands in New Zealand. So when I took over as chapter chair, we were only doing meetings in Sydney, and the past chapter chair, David Strike, said, Todd, that you've got to bring the club to the rest of Australia and New Zealand. So that proactively pushed me to find opportunities to find clubhouses where we could hold events. I find if you can get a location in another city and you can get it at a good price, or better still for free, you're halfway there. You just have to announce that you have an event on, and people will come, because the chapter, we do have members who will fly interstate to come to an evening of adventure, but you can't expect to do that all the time because of the costs involved. So now, as you saw in my video, we're doing Melbourne, Tasmania, and our first 2 in New Zealand have occurred. On our events, so we've got 100 members. We get about 20 members per event, I'd say, in Sydney. I'll take Sydney for an example, and so 60 people will be members of the public. So 80 people per event. So about 1 in 4 people coming to our event will be a member.
Oh, that was my next question. We invite the public as well to our functions, and it works out really well. We get the same group of people that keep coming over and over again. It's almost like a community now.
Well, we really couldn't operate as a viable chapter without the public. To be honest, they're a huge source of revenue for us. Huge. I mean, we make way more, like 4 times more money out of tickets sales to members of the public than we do from our members, and they're absolutely fascinated with the club. A lot of these people, they don't have the credentials to join, but that doesn't mean that they're not interested. They're very interested, and they want to be part of it. And whilst I would love everyone to be a member, I can't quite get that over the line with everyone, but to get their money is good enough, and to allow them to experience the Explorers Club, and get them to respect the Explorers Club, and get them to, as members of the public, to share their Explorers Club experience with other people, push the word of the Explorers Club out to the wider community, is absolutely invaluable. I mean, we are now known in Australia because of the public talking about what we do.
Oh, that's great. That's really great. Yeah, that's something I've been wanting us to do more and more as a club in general, is we need to get more public attention. I go to so many different functions. When I say I'm a member of the Explorers Club, everybody asks me to explain what that is. People haven't really connected with us yet. I'm not talking about the members here in San Diego, but I just mean as a whole.
Yes. So the more people know about it, the better it is. I mean, we're getting a lot of attention in Australia right now from the ABC Radio, which is Australia's national broadcaster, who pretty much interview one of our Explorers Club members every Saturday. And it's a huge radio program heard right around the country. And all these things keep building up the name. So our members of the public going out there speaking about the club, our members being interviewed on major media, it's really extending our reach in Australia.
Now, with your meetings, I noticed you had somebody doing videography, at least in the video you showed. Do you archive those, or do you broadcast them live, or can people access those?
Okay, so first of all, our chapter video journalist is a gentleman called Casimir Zero. Now, I would find it very difficult to run this club on this level without Casimir's assistance. He runs all the video. He creates all the digital content. This video you've just seen now, he created it in record time. I really, really rely on him. And he's a true professional. He's an adventure expedition filmmaker. So if anyone out there needs an adventure expedition filmmaker, I've really got to plug Casimir, our chapter video journalist. So he comes on to all the events, and we record all the events that we can record, all the presentations, and then we make them available for free on our website and our Facebook page, because a lot of members couldn't make the Sydney event or the Melbourne event, so we still want them to experience what we've presented. So he does all of that. The only hiccup with those things is sometimes our adventurers and explorers are using footage that is licensed to be used in a documentary and really can't be broadcast. So they're the only complications. Sometimes we don't produce all of them because they've got content, they've got video content which is not been publicly released yet, but they'll allow us to use it for a presentation.
Yeah, I was wondering, do you get for your lecturers, people are presenting at your functions, do you get a release from them if you're going to put it onto your website or not?
Well, we tell them that we're putting on our website, and they will tell us if there's an issue at that point. We don't get to the point where making an official sign up, official release. I suppose that's something that we could, but so far it's quite easy just to have a conversation. Say, look, we're going to put this on the website. Are you happy with that? And they'll say, yeah, absolutely, or yes, except can you just cut out this bit here? And they'll be
right.
quite, yeah.
So, Anne, do we have any other questions?
Yes, we do. Hi, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. We actually have a question from Nancy McGee, who I believe is the Texas chair, and she wants to know how you go about getting your public mailing list together.
Okay, so when I came on board as chapter chair, we already had an email list of about 200 people, and as we continued to go on, we would create an event and we would promote it via our own e-newsletter, but also via Facebook. So on Facebook, people find you, or even on Eventbrite. When we made the tickets available, Eventbrite's a ticket booking system. We listed the events as public events, and people search through these things, go, oh wow, there's this adventure, the Explorers Club talk is going to be on Saturday. That sounds interesting. I'm interested in diving with sharks. I'm interested in mountaineering, and there's a great presenter. So members of the public found out about us from word of mouth, Facebook, and Eventbrite. Anywhere they leave details, anywhere they leave details, we collect their email addresses and we add them onto our email list. And also at all of our events, we have a little form where people can fill out who they are and their details, and we just add them to the list.
We also got a question from Jeff Blumenfeld, who wants to know, Jeff, first of all, hello and stay safe over there, because Jeff's in Denver. He's saying we're locked down in the Rocky Mountains. Has any chapter tried to have a Zoom chapter meeting? If so, how did it work? Tim, are you aware of any of this?
I'm actually planning, I haven't sent it out yet, but I was going to see how this works. I have this Saturday, I have a chapter chair happy hour for the West Coast in Hawaii that I'm going to be holding. And if that works out well, that'll be my first one that I'm actually hosting, bringing it up. If that works well, then I'm thinking maybe the next week I'm going to have a chapter cocktail party, virtual cocktail party.
And David Galbraith is also writing in saying that he's going to try it out in Toronto next week. So I think you're all on the same page here and getting people together.
Yeah, this may actually work out to be a benefit in the long run, because we always think of ourselves as being so isolated from each other, and really we're all here.
Well, I think this program is going to bring everyone together, because I'm also getting another message that when you do have chapter meetings, the other chapters might want to join into your meetings. So that way they'll get to know other members all over the world. So let's try to keep that going, and we'll talk to Kevin at the club, and hopefully he can let us know if other chapter meetings are taking place, and we can get the word out to everyone. So why don't we move on, and we'll take some more questions at the end, but I think that you have someone else to introduce to us.
Yes, absolutely. We've got 100 members, and all of our members are special. They all do amazing things, but I have brought one along with us today to give you a feel of, you know, one of our members and what they do. It's my great pleasure to introduce to you Dr. Kate Leeming. Kate is an explorer, adventurer, and is a long distance cyclist. She's pretty much cycled twice the way around the world, over 22,000 kilometers, but I'll introduce her and let her tell her story. Everyone, please warmly welcome Dr. Kate Leeming.
Thank you, Todd, and thank you, Tim. And it's an absolute pleasure to be a part of the very first of these Explorer Connects. And so I thought I've prepared a little, tiny little presentation, not too much. But yes, as Todd said, I've cycled the equivalent of more than twice around the world if you're going around at the equator on my major expeditions. So I'm just going to see if I can do a little screen share here and then go through this. So I guess I started cycling as my way just of seeing Europe, and that's where I really found and discovered my passion. And over a couple of years, it's almost 30 years ago now actually, but over a couple of years I did about 15,000 kilometers, and that was just really my personal discovery of Europe. And then coming back from that, I was planning my first major expedition, and I met another fellow of the Explorers Club, Robert Swan, and he really inspired me and taught me that there was a lot more value to what I was doing than simply riding a bike. So then the next journey I did was across Russia back in 1993, and I was aiding the children affected by the Chernobyl disaster there. Then the next big one was 25,000 kilometers as my own personal discovery of Australia. But this time I was working with UNESCO, and we had an education program, and that was a demonstration activity for their decade of education for sustainable development. And that was 7,000 kilometers actually off-road on very remote tracks. So picture Australia as being similar size to the mainland USA. It's a pretty long way and a great way to discover my country. Then something else I'm known pretty well for, first crossing from west to east in a continuous line from Senegal to Somalia. So it's 22,000 kilometers of Africa. And I was looking at exploring the causes and effects of extreme poverty. So it wasn't just going across Africa. I had 15 different projects that I was trying to get a story about the real Africa as well. So there was that. And ever since then, or not just about since then, I've been planning my next journey, which is to cycle across Antarctica via the South Pole. And I've been working on this for quite a few years. And it's really about getting the right technology, getting the experience, because obviously here there isn't very much cold weather. So I've been going up to the Arctic, to Svalbard, to Northeast Greenland, to Arctic Canada, and testing out equipment and myself. And I seem to have kept all my fingers and toes, so we move on. So the plan is to go basically via the South Pole, which people have cycled to the South Pole before, but not across. And I'm planning to use this to contribute back to education. I've set up Breaking the Cycle education. What I've got now is a little video just to give you more of an idea of what I've been doing in that field of teaching about leadership, and also about the global goals. So I'm just going to stop sharing this, and I'm going to start sharing this little video, which was actually made in San Diego and won a little Emmy Award. But you'll see what it's like when I'm going into classes with kids.
Hi, how are you? We're taught from the time we're kids that words matter. Do you all know where Australia is? That's good. Words can make you feel happy or sad. And I used to get a little bit upset when people used to call me being mad. Or even make a room full of fourth graders sit still. Here's my story about my journey into madness. Kate Leeming's power comes out in her stories. Now, hands up, who rides a bicycle? Anyone ride a bicycle? And the miles she's ridden on her bicycle. She's one of the top explorers in the world. Quite possibly the first person to cycle across Africa in a continuous line. She's pedaled enough miles to go around the world twice. Overcoming obstacles in every climate imaginable. She knows how much the right words can change your life. So one of the stories that really inspired me when I started doing this was the story of my great-great-uncle, William Snell. In 1897, he became the second person to cycle across Australia when he cycled from the west across to Melbourne in the east to propose to his childhood sweetheart. Unfortunately, she said yes. I guess it's pioneers and stories like that that really inspire me, that I was interested in as a kid. So it's grown into this. Now she's here in San Diego, getting ready to cycle down the Baja Divide, nearly 2,000 miles of rugged terrain in less than a month. Fatter tires, and obviously they're tubeless because we're probably going to get a few punctures with those big cactus thorns.
We've got my drink bottles in there. This is the tent roll. This roll was actually made by my uncle. Chris Pennington is going with her. He's an adventure filmmaker, capturing this part of her story. Definitely learning a lot. And yeah, I just can't wait to get out on the bike and actually see how everything falls in place when an expedition starts like this. After the Baja Divide, Kate has expeditions in Iceland, Africa, Australia, South America, and Asia. They're all preparing her to become the first person to cycle across Antarctica via the South Pole. I really love to travel by bike because you're really connected with the people in the land. I love the idea of bringing a light on a map to life. Very well used helmet. Her expeditions led her to create Breaking the Cycle, her mission to end extreme poverty, provide education, and promote gender equality. I guess I have a real passion for the importance of education. By using her bicycle... I'm useless at wheelies. I'm too chicken. Can you do a wheelie? Kate wants to inspire kids to create their own stories. Yeah, I bet you can do it much better than me. Making the world a better place. We want kids to get out there, experiment, find what their own passions are, and then be able to relate them to the world and to understand how they fit into that world a little bit better, and hopefully to make better decisions about the future and where we're heading. Bree Steffen. That's a pleasure. It's fun to be here. 10 News. Oh, great. Glad you enjoyed that. That's good.
Stop that there, and we'll go back to, where are we? Just need to go back.
We can see you, Kate.
Can you? I was
Yep.
right there. That's fine then. So yes, so that's pretty much, that was taken 2 years ago at the start of my project, of the Breaking the Cycle project. So now I've actually finished. I've done all 6, or nearly finished all 6. I just had to come back from Bolivia in a hurry. So I've done a third of the last one. But they're all different. They were either cycling in sand, such as down the Skeleton Coast in Namibia, that's not been done before, or the Finke River, the world's oldest river, which is in Australia. They've been at altitude, such as in South America or the Indian Himalaya. And like the Baja Divide, that was really just getting myself back into being expedition fit, which is a bit different from just working out in the gym or going for a ride around Melbourne. So they were all fantastic for different reasons. The biggest thing stopping me really with the Antarctic journey is just the old perennial problem of finding enough funding. So I have a team behind me, a marketing team if required, that can do a global project. So it's kind of, it's all there, all the elements are there, the experience is there. I'm just trying to find the right opportunity really with that. So that's where I'm at pretty much. If people would like to ask some questions. I've too have been enjoying very much going along to the Explorers Club evenings in Melbourne, and in fact Casimir Zell is the one who actually I've been working with a lot, and he came with me himself to record the Namibian expedition last year. So we get on fine, and that's all Explorers Club connections. So yeah, any questions? Be fantastic.
So we actually have one from one of our members, a new member in Michigan. Her name is Deanna Weeble, and she's an anthropologist. And it's not really a question. She's writing, I love the project. I spoke to Michigan Tech students who think the best way to travel across Mars would be by bicycle.
I haven't thought of that one yet. Which is, it's good to have ideas.
So have you gone with other members of the club as well, or?
I have met other members. I came to the New York Club in 2016, and I know Christine Dennison quite well, and she's written a couple of stories about me. So I know Christine quite well, and I've met Tim Taylor. Yeah, I'm also a member at or a fellow at the Royal Geographic, so I've been a bit involved there over the years. So
well, clearly
yeah.
you get around. But in any case, we have another question, and it is, does Kate use fat tires for snow riding?
Absolutely, I do. The bike actually is really special. When I was trying to think of what would be the best bike to handle the conditions, especially of polar conditions like in Antarctica, I ended up doing a lot of research. I went to North America first, and I found a very innovative fellow, and then I discovered a fellow called Steve Christini, who lives in Philadelphia. And he'd been making these mountain bikes that were all-wheel drive. So the design was incredible. And I suggested maybe he try and put that technology into a fat bike. You can't just retrofit it. He had to design from scratch. And he just loved that challenge. And so I now have 4 of his fat bikes, one for each expedition that I've been testing them. So the idea is to have as wider tires, as much flotation as possible. That's key over soft surfaces like snow and sand. So we've been trying to design his technology around the widest tire possible. And the all-wheel drive technology is quite amazing because people look at it and they think, oh, it must be hard to push, but actually it's only when the front wheel, the back wheel slips, the front wheel engages. It's indexed. It's unbelievable. So it actually isn't harder to push, or you really can't notice it. So it's a fantastic design, and probably a little bit niche, but it sort of started up a new business for Steve as well. So in Philadelphia. So yeah, there's a lot of innovation and a lot of extra research and work that goes into the end product, i.e. cycling across Antarctica. So, yeah.
So I have another question for Todd. That is, with everything that's been going on in Australia recently, whether you might want to say a few words about the fires that have gone on there, or, right now, as much as we all want to be with you in Australia, we can't go, we can't even hardly get out of our homes here in New York. So we do look forward to coming to you, but tell us a little bit more about what's been going on in Australia over the past year.
Okay, and before I answer that question, I'll just give a little bit of a snapshot of what's happened over the last maybe 6 months. First off, we had an incredibly crippling drought that absolutely devastated our farmers, and that was going on for the last couple of years. And then Australia caught on fire, and I'll get into that a bit more. The fire was put out after being an absolute monster across our country. The fire was put out by massive rains. We flooded. There was a massive flood. These are all disasters. And then straight off the back of that, we got COVID. I mean, the country has had the most incredible bad run of things. So just to get back on the fire, you know, Australian bush is designed to burn. It's what it does. It burns, and it regenerates itself. There are a lot of seeds, and the burning is part of the regeneration. But what we had was unprecedented. Over 18 million hectares, from what I understand, have been lost. We've lost almost 6,000 buildings, over 2,000, almost 3,000 homes. I think about 30 human fatalities, which is incredible. Wasn't that higher than that? And at least 1 billion animals have been lost. And right now there may be not enough food available in the bush for these animals to come back. So it's been a bit of a disaster. But you know, the Australian bush does rebound fast, and it's already doing that. Unfortunately, we don't know too much about it because COVID took over after that. Could you believe on the 5th of March, 1 month ago, I had almost 100 people at an evening of adventure in Sydney. How much the world has changed, how much our lives have changed since then, you know, just 4 weeks. I mean, everyone knows this story. We're all living it in our own way. So yes, 4 disasters after each other in Australia, but the fire was pretty bad. Can I just add to that, why did the fires happen? I'm no expert. As I said, fires do happen in Australia, but we had an incredible amount of fuel, ground fuel, the fallen leaf litter and things like that, branches that built up inside our national parks. And we do have a policy to backburn this, reduce the fuel load, but the fuel can only be burnt in safely backburnt under certain conditions. We didn't get those conditions over the last couple of years. So the backburning was really down. Fuel loads built up to a super high level. Then we got high winds, high temperatures, lightning strikes, out of control fire.
So I have a question for you from Andrew Harper. He's saying, good day, Todd. Are there any plans for the Oz chapter to have more collaborative events with other institutions like the Australian Museum or the Australian Geographic Society?
Good question. We've already started to have collaborative, we've had one collaborative event with the Otago Museum. Australian Geographic is definitely a possibility. I'm a counsellor for the Australian Geographic Society, and I have been working with them since about the mid-90s. I promote their events to our members, and that they can promote our events. So we're not competitors, we're friends to each other. We've got a lot of members who are in common. Is there anything planned right now? No, but can there be? Absolutely. Are we cooperating and working cohesively with Australian Geographic Society right now? Yes, we are.
Sounds great. Tim, I'm going to hand it back over to you for a little bit.
Well, Todd, I think at this point, could you let people know how to get in touch with you if they wanted to get in touch with you, and Kate as well?
Yes, sure. I have a new business card here, and my email address is anzec@explorers.org. So you can see that there, anzec@explorers.org. And our website is www.anzec.org.
Yeah, and to check out more about what I'm doing, and you can connect by going to my website, which is Breaking the Cycle, all one word, breakingthecycle.education, the full word education, breakingthecycle.education. And if you go there, you can press contact, you can contact me, you can check out the expeditions, you can look at the educational resources, old videos, media, all sorts of things. So, or even buy my books.
Well,
yeah,
Todd and Kate, thank you so much for joining us. I just have a few announcements. On Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, there is going to be a presentation by Dr. James Garvin. Subject is about Venus, our sister planet, and he is the chief scientist at the NASA Goddard Space Center. And then Next Thursday, an email will go out to everybody. We're going to have another presentation. This time it'll be by George Karunis, the chapter chair of Canada. We're going to pick another one that spans a whole continent right back to back.
So we actually have two late coming questions. Santiago writes, does the ANZEC chapter have any members in any of the South Pacific islands nearby?
Oh, South Pacific Islands. Let me have a look. We have Craig DeWitt, who lives in Brisbane in Australia, but also operates quite extensively in Papua New Guinea, where he does diving expeditions. Now, I'm just scanning my membership list now. That's the only one that I'm aware of in the South Pacific. Our members are going into the South Pacific all the time. Matt Carter, he's studying World War II shipwrecks. He's all through the South Pacific. So, but are they actually living in Tonga or anywhere else? I'm unaware of that. My membership email, my membership list I just scanned, couldn't see any addresses there.
So here's another one from Mark Seth Lender. Todd, are the fires, SARS, COVID, etc. We need to take stock of the damage we humans have done or doing and make a course of correction. No one is better poised than the Explorers Club worldwide to lead. Yes, no, any ideas?
Well, I mean, the Explorers Club is a meeting place for science and adventure, and both adventurers and explorers have to find ways to live more frugally, depending on what their expedition is, and scientists are obviously heavily involved in that. So I wouldn't be surprised that when the human race finds a more sustainable way to live and have less impact on the planet, I wouldn't be surprised if it came from an Explorers Club member. So whoever that may be, I wish them good luck and keep going.
We actually do have one Explorers Club member that's actually working on a vaccine right now for COVID-19. So keep your fingers crossed that that would work, because it would just be incredible for the human race, to be perfectly honest. One more question for you, Kate, and that's from Mark Brian Brown. And I know you sort of covered about the fat tires, but he wants to know about ice and snow and what kind of techniques you use for biking over those types of issues.
All right, well, they're quite different. Obviously, snow is the biggest worry because it's soft, and obviously when it's really soft, it doesn't even matter if I have a all-wheel drive or not. If I can't grip anything, I can't move. Ice is quite different because obviously it's firm. It's dangerous if you don't have studs though. So I've fallen, as you might have seen in that video, I've fallen pretty hard and had a few bruises from ice. That was up on the Canadian Arctic. But in Antarctica, I'm more worried about the soft stuff. And there's different types of snow. I've learned a lot from Eric Phillips, one of our explorers. I've been out on expedition with him, and he said in Antarctica, it's quite a dry snow. It's quite different. And some of the snow up on the plateau is going to be the trickiest of the lot. The kind of technique really over soft surfaces is to use a very light gear, a small gear, and try and have quite a fast, turn the pedals quite quickly so that you try to skim over the top. So you have as little pressure as possible over so it's a larger contact patch, if you like, over the snow as possible. And the toughest thing of it all is maintaining balance, which is what makes it very different from, say, skiing, where you have a large ski, so a larger surface area covering the snow. Here, I'm spending a lot of energy just trying to stay upright, in fact. And skiers tend, if they get a bit hot or tired, they can slow down. But if I do that on a bike, I just fall off. So the hardest thing is expending a lot of energy while trying to stay upright on the snow. Helps.
Well, thank you everyone for joining us tonight. Tim, it's wonderful to have you as the new Vice President for Chapters, and Todd and Kate, this has been just incredible. Thank you for being our first, the first chapter to join in for this new program. And I know that people are asking to connect in other ways, and we're going to come up with different formats for all of us to do that in our own ways. in any case, for those of you who are watching out there, if you want to be more involved, and if you can, send us a minute or less video of what you're up to, what you're doing, where you are with your name on it, and we'll gladly put it up on our Facebook. It'll be called Minute at the Mic. And for those of you who are watching that can't do it in under a minute, don't send in anything, because it has to be a short one. And I think we know who we're talking about. But it would be wonderful to have these little messages sent in from all over the world. And that way we'll be able to connect a lot easier for our next DCAD, or for whenever we are able to get together. Tim?
I guess that wraps it up. Thank you all for joining in tonight. I've had a great time. I didn't know how this was going to go, and I think personally it went very smoothly and very well. Great material, I think. Thank you, Todd. Thank you, Kate. And thank you, Anne.
And those little videos, just send them over to me, to apasser@explorers.org, and we'll get them up as soon as we can. And thank you everyone for being with us. Stay safe, stay well, stay inside, and wash your hands.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye.